All right, writing the equations in slope-intercept form is one of the more important things that you need to understand early in your algebra careers because it's going to be used a lot. Y equals mx plus b. You want to have a strong understanding of this form, y equals mx plus b. We should be able to write equations in this form. Given very, very small pieces of information, we can get the m, which is representing our slope, and we can also get the b, which is representing our y-intercept. So slope is how steep is our line. Is it rising really rapidly, or is it gradually going up? Maybe it's going down. That would be a negative slope. Y-intercept is where is it crossing our y-axis at. So when you are given 2 points like we are in this problem, write an equation in slope-intercept form, okay? So we know it needs to look like this, for a line that passes through -4, 5 and -8, 2. So if I just did a quick sketch over here, if I made a sketch of a graph and I said -4, 5, back 4, up 5, somewhere about there, -8, 2, back 8, up 2, somewhere about there. This is the line we're talking about, okay? Now the problem is if I just sketch a graph, okay, I can't determine what my y-intercept is unless I do some thinking. Now there's a couple of different ways you can go about creating this equation. You could sketch this. Fortunately on this problem, because we're kind of going from -4 and -8, -8 to -4 is a distance of 4, and then another distance of 4 would actually land us right here on the y-axis. So we could determine that as long as we stay consistent with our rise over our run, which it would be consistent because this is a line which has a constant rate of change, we're going to go up the exact same amount and over the exact same amount. So if we traveled 4 over and then another 4 over, we're actually on the y-axis. So we could figure out where we'd be at here. We went from 2 to 5. So we're only 2 up here. Then we're up here at 5. So from 2 to 5. So how much did we rise? We went up 3. So we're going to go up 3 again, 4 over, putting us at, what's 3 up from 5? That would give me an 8, okay? So we can determine right now that we would go to 0, 8, and that would be this point. So you could draw your graph out. Now you're not always going to be able to count 4 over, and hit that line that we call the y-axis. So we need to be able to solve these algebraically as well. Sometimes pictures are helpful. Other times we just need to take this information here, do some algebra, and figure out everything it is that we're looking for. So we know we're supposed to be getting an 8 for our y-intercept. I'm going to show you right now how to find a slope. And we're going to be able to do it without having to draw a picture because sometimes the pictures will be nice. Sometimes the lines will be helpful. Other times, not so much. So here we go. Let's go back, erase 0, 8. I know we found it with our picture here. I'm going to show you how to find it algebraically. Okay. Here are our 2 points. This is an x value. This is a y value. This is also an x value. This is a y value. So what we need to figure out is our slope. We have a thing called the slope formula when given 2 points. It's a fairly simple formula to plug information into. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This will give me the slope whenever I'm given 2 points. This is the first point given, so I'm going to put 1s on those. This is the second point given, so I'm going to put 2s on those. Now, when I see y2, I just need to go up here and ask myself, which of these 4 values is my y2? That one right there. So y2 has to be a 2. So I always tell my students to put parentheses in place of where y2 and y1 is, over, put parentheses where x2 and x1 are. And now let's just put numbers in these 4 spots. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. We just got to figure out which number goes in the right spot. So y2 is my second y value, So I'm going to put a 2 in there. y1 goes right here. My y1 is 5. So I got to figure out what 2 minus 5 is. That'll be my top number for my slope. And then I got to take my x2 minus my x1. x2 minus x1. x2 is -8. x1 is -4. So I got to say -8 minus -4. Be careful, subtracting a negative is really just adding. Okay, so what's 2 minus 5? That's going to give me a negative 3. And then we got negative 8 minus negative 4. Subtracting a negative is really adding. So this is negative 8 plus 4, which would give me negative 4. Now a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so I can just change negative 3 over negative 4 to 3/4. We now know what our slope is. We know the m to our equation. Remember, this is the slope formula. This will give us our slope. We plugged the information in, worked it out. So our slope is 3/4. I'm going to write that down. Slope is equal to 3/4. I'm going to put a box around it. That's important information. And it's going to go right here where the m is in this equation. Y equals mx plus b. So I got to figure out what goes here, what goes here. We already found 3/4. So we found the first part of our equation. Now we just got to find b, the y-intercept. Now remember, we already found it when we drew that picture out over here. It's 8. How would we figure it out algebraically without an image to go off of? Well, we already know our slope. We have a y, we have an x, and we have a b. Because we've got an x and a y and a b, we've got 1, 2, 3 variables in here. We can't solve for b with other variables. There's too many variables. You got to have a one variable equation to solve. So x, is there anything I could change in x to? We actually are going to use this information up here. This is an x, this is a y. This is an x, this is a y. That falls on the line. So we can actually use this information, or we could use this information. It's really your choice which value you use. I'm going to use negative 8 and 2. That's just a pick. Okay, you could use negative 4 and 5. You'll get the same exact result. Test it. Try it. See if you do. Okay, so let's plug negative 8 in for x. So I need a negative 8 right there. So this is now 3/4 times x, which is a negative 8, equal to y plus b right here, just comes straight down. Now, if I change the x to negative 8, I'm using this coordinate, so I got to use the y value from that coordinate. Can't take 5, that's a different coordinate. Negative 8, 2, so if I put negative 8 in for the x, I got to put the 2 in for the y. Now if you look at my new equation, I already know my slope is going to be 3/4. We're going to just save that information. But now I got to work this out and solve for b. So 3/4 times negative 8, well, a positive times a negative comes out as a negative. 8 times 3 is 24. So we're going to get negative 24/4 equals 2 plus b comes down. Negative 24/4, that's a nice, neat number. 4 goes into 24 how many times? You guessed it, 6. So let's just erase negative 24/4. Keep the negative part, but just change that to a 6. Now I've got negative 6 plus b is equal to 2. I'm almost isolated with b, but I got to get rid of this negative 6. Inverse operations like we have from the beginning of algebra. Plus 6 cancels, plus 6. 2 plus 6 is 8. So now I know what my b is. Notice I circled it because it's important information I need to use in my answer. I circled, well, boxed it because it's important information I need to use in my answer. We're being asked to get y equals mx plus b, meaning we got to change the m and the b to numbers. So I'm going to say y equals, I'm going to leave this spot blank. I'm going to put the x down. I'm going to leave this spot blank. Now, what did we find for m? M is my slope. We found the slope by using the slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 gave us 3/4. So we said slope is 3/4. Change that m to 3/4. We didn't know what our b was, so then we plugged 2 pieces of information in for x and y with our slope already written down because we had found that first. So we knew our slope, we knew an x value, we knew a y value, we plugged them in. Now we had an equation with only one variable, b. B was the only thing left to find. So we cleaned all of this up Inverse operated to isolate the variable b. Now we know b is equal to 8, so I'm going to change this part to positive 8. The equation of the line that would go through -4, 5, as well as -8, 2 is a line that has a slope of 3/4 and a y-intercept of 8. So I'm going to now graph exactly what we just talked about. I would say 8 right about there. I'd have a dot here, and this would be going up 3/4, up 3/4. We would have a line just like you saw when we originally drew it out and plotted the 2 points. Okay, hopefully this makes sense. Step 1, find your slope using the slope formula. Step 2, take that slope, put it in for m, change your x and y's to values that you can steal from these coordinates given to you. That will give you an equation with only one variable. And what can we do with equations with one variable? We can solve. Solve for b, use that number when you go and write out the full equation. Hopefully this makes sense. Study hard and good luck on your upcoming test.